Hello, and thank you for taking time this weekend to join us here on KREM 2 News. I'm Cody Proctor, and this is the KREM 2 News Weekend Review. We know life gets busy, and it can be tough to keep up with all the news. So let's get you updated on some of the headlines from this past week.
Right off of Government Way and Sunset Highway are plans for 30 tiny homes. It's called the New Roots Tiny Home Village. And plans for this pilot project are getting closer to fruition. This month, Spokane City Council selected Compassionate Addiction Treatment, or CAT, as the project operator. The property is owned by Waters Meat, formerly the Empire Foundation. The city says the project is designed to serve people who are on a pathway out of homelessness, particularly those who demonstrated engagement in stabilization services. The village will be referral only. One neighbor, who asked us not to show her face, says this is a component that somewhat calms her concerns about safety.
I think that's great. I think that's a very good start. It would be awesome too if there was like check-ins along the way where there wasn't a comfortability where you can just backtrack, that there's continual accountability.
In addition to 30 tiny homes, the village will also include a total of 6 bathrooms across 3 shower bathroom buildings. In a new statement from Waters Mead, it says the foundation is working with city staff to complete the relevant planning processes to open this pilot housing project. It goes on to say, winter is coming and our community needs as many warm, sheltered places as possible to save lives and support people with the stability they need to continue their journey to permanent housing. Right now, Waters Mead is working on securing permits for the project, which is why they don't have a definitive timeline on when the project will be complete, but they hope it will be soon. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
One
I'm not in favor of the parking tax.
after the other.
I'm speaking tonight to urge you to vote yes on the parking tax ordinance.
Spokane community voiced their thoughts to City Council on a proposed 12% parking tax increase on paid surface lots with a 6% increase for parking garages. The item moving to next week put the proposed tax as a first reading ordinance to be voted on at a later date. Despite this, responses on the proposal weren't in short supply.
There are 27 folks signed up for that.
City officials say the parking tax money would go towards transportation costs to improve maintenance and keep up with needed safety improvements. Their Factors community member Lauren Pangborn argues needs the city's time and money sooner rather than later.
Damage is increasing, revenues are flat, and the revenue doesn't go as far as it once did. The math just isn't mathing. We need more funding to make our streets safe, accessible, and resilient.
City officials also say the tax is to incentivize redevelopment, essentially turning these different paid lots into housing or commercial buildings, which is something the city has been working towards for years as a part of its comprehensive plan. Despite this, CEO of the Spokane Airport, David Herring, argues the proposed tax will hurt funding for the airport over time. He argues it isn't fair for the airport to have to pay the city more over time for parking, and if they have to, they'll lose money.
If the costs are not passed on to the public, the airport will immediately see a 4% loss in revenues, which equates to an estimated loss of $2.5 million in 2026 and increasing thereafter. I remind the council that the airport is financially self-sustaining and receives no financial support whatsoever from the city. Yet the proposed parking tax seeks to divert airport funds to the city in furtherance of studies.
It's now up to council members to decide if this parking tax is the best option for the city.
Brandon Durst served only 4 months. Now he's arguing the district fired him without cause and owes him more than $400,000.
Durst's lawsuit, filed in February 2024, says the district breached his contract.
All those in favor say aye.
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 When the school board voted to accept his resignation in October 2023, but Durst now argues he didn't quit. In his lawsuit, he claims the school board terminated him without cause and intentionally misrepresented a letter he sent as a resignation. I believe it's necessary for me to step aside, the September 25th letter says. He says he's now owed $402,000 in lost wages and benefits and plans to have an accountant testify to it in court. It was a decision embattled from the beginning.
Not currently qualified or able to fulfill all the duties of a public school superintendent. Even
West Bonner County School District's board hired Durst to serve as superintendent back in June 2023. His six-figure contract was dependent on an emergency certification from the state. In September 2023, the State Board of Education denied the certification, claiming it legally couldn't grant one for an administrator. KREM 2 News was unable to speak with attorneys for Durst or the district, but the district's lawyers have responded in court records saying Durst's letter clearly communicated he was resigning, calling it a goodbye letter. They argue even if he did not quit, Durst's contract was void because he was denied state certification required for the job.
A jury trial is scheduled for January. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Before we get back to this week's headlines, we want to remind you, you can get the latest news and weather forecast anytime you want on KREM 2 Plus. It's our streaming app you can watch on your TV, and best of all, it's free. We hope you'll check it out, but now let's get back to the Week in Review.
That's right, I have been on scene all day, and the Spokane Police Department report that this incident happened on Walnut and 8th Avenue, and they say that a vehicle crashed into a tree, and that tree is actually right behind me across the street. Spokane Police added in their report that that driver did die on scene.
The Spokane Police Department also report that speed appears to be a factor in the cause of the crash. As of now, KREM 2 News still does not know the identity of the driver. One man I spoke to was working on the roof of a church across the street when he heard the crash.
We were just working on this church across the street, washing the roof, and then we heard a big bang and looked around, and we saw that guy with the car already hugging the tree. So I ran there, and a few more people ran towards it. So I checked the pulse. He did have some pulse.
He added he tried to help the driver get out of the vehicle, but the car was too mangled within the tree, and people in the area had to wait for the fire department for further help.
I said a prayer about him, asked God to help him to live through this and be saved, but couldn't help any more than that.
As I knocked on doors in the area, several people told me drivers can go very fast on Walnut Street, which eventually connects and turns into Maple Street.
KREM 2 News is still learning more about this story. The investigation is ongoing. Our reporting on the lower South Hill of Spokane, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
If everything were to go according to plan, a new Topgolf could be going up in this part of Liberty Lake. We're right at the corner of Kramer Parkway and East Country Vista Drive, with the nearest locations being more than 200 miles away. A Topgolf here would fill a hole in the franchise's map.
It's the end of the day, and business is slowing down for consigned furniture, but a new neighbor could shake things up for them. Step outside the Liberty Lake storefront, and you're looking at the proposed future home of Topgolf.
I'm excited about it.
A According to the Greater Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce, the Topgolf project's in the pre-development stage with a permit application submitted. The proposed facility would be about 35,000 square feet. To put that into perspective, the consigned furniture building's about 60,000 square feet. Topgolf would be just over half that size. The Chamber's project overview also says Topgolf sees Liberty Lake as a good spot to build since it's right between Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. Consigned Furniture General Manager Matt Kane couldn't agree more.
Honestly, Liberty Lake's kind of a destination when you have between Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. So everyone has to travel out here. If we have something like that, that is another big staple, bringing a lot of people to the area. I think it would drive a lot more traffic.
Building a Topgolf in Liberty Lake's been in the works for a while. The City Council there approved a lighting ordinance amendment last year, which Topgolf needed to build. In that same meeting, the company claimed the facility would create more than 200 jobs and could bring in around 250,000 visitors per year. While consigned furniture consistently gets customers, Kane says it doesn't compare to their sister stores.
And they normally have a lot more traffic than us just because they're in the center of their cities or towns. But that would change it a lot, I think.
Now, as of Monday night, there's no word yet on when construction could begin. In Liberty Lake, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News.
G.W. Hates has lived in Coeur d'Alene for 4 decades, but for the past couple of years, he says the route between his home and Post Falls has been difficult due to construction of the I-90 and Highway 41 interchange. And he's worried the frustration will move closer to home.
Cut off access to Walmart and various businesses. And I'm afraid that what they're going to do is the same thing here in Coeur d'Alene.
The Idaho Department of Transportation is looking to redesign the I-90 and US 95 interchange to accommodate a projected doubling in population in Coeur d'Alene over the next 20 years. Hates filling out a public feedback survey on the project.
They're going to have the place in chaos for 2 years.
This redesign includes a bridge over Appleway on US 95. If it doesn't happen, Heather McDaniel with ITD warns traffic backups could stretch to I-90.
There really isn't any of those alternative situations that played well once all of the traffic modeling data was applied.
McDaniel says the data is why ITD hosted a community open house on Tuesday. They outlined research, designs of the project, and asked community members like Haight for feedback. The meeting follows one in March when the concerns were first brought forward. McDaniel says ITD went back to the drawing board and found the bridge was the only option. Despite this, she says ITD encourages folks to submit feedback, adding it'll help them find any problems they may not be aware of.
Obviously, every bit of feedback can't be accommodated, but just the collective voice of the community to make sure that we're delivering a project that reflects the community.
As folks submit feedback to ITT during the designing stages, Haight hopes its change will keep traffic moving similar to now, adding his health risks make it more important than ever to keep it so.
I'm 83. So I'm pretty dependent upon a lot of things at the hospital. I need quick access to the hospital, and I've got fairly quick access right now.
McDaniel tells me if they get funding secured, the project could start construction as soon as 2027. In Coeur d'Alene, Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for watching the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. It's been a busy week all across the Inland Northwest, so let's help catch you up on some stories you might have missed.
The Nisqually tribe's answer to ICE's request to house detainees on its tribal land was a resounding no, and they say that's consistent with tribal values. Along with the rejection, Nisqually Tribal Chairman Ken Choke revealed in a statement that federal agents have been contacting other tribes with the same request. He also said they became aware, quote, that a staff member had been in conversation with ICE without consulting the tribal council. Indigenous attorney and tribal law expert Gabe Galanda says tribes can contract with any agency they want, but optics might be an issue for tribes.
There would be public perception problems, if not a crisis for that tribal community. And I think most important of all, it would send a message to a tribal reservation community or population that is most likely one that the tribe is not generally interested in sending.
The Nisqually tribe says they do not plan on entering any contracts with ICE in the future either. In Thurston County, Sharon Yu, King 5 News.
It will be a day that Spokane talks about for years.
Weather experts say this is one of Spokane's biggest storms of recent memory.
November 17th, 2015. Spokane was a mess. Trees toppled onto houses, power lines dotted roadways, and at one point 200,000 people were without power.
We're hoping every single minute that our power will get back on.
Windstorm was crazy. Many of our folks were camped out in our operations conference room just to power up their devices and to stay warm. We had kids home from school. It was pretty wild to be without power for that long.
When windstorm happened, I usually was doing most of my broadcasts from the store on 29th on the South Hill. That had been closed because of windstorm. And they didn't have any power that week.
Days before the event, Rosar's employees worked to put stores back online. Avista linemen gave their time so that families could spend time together in the warmth. And when store doors opened the morning of Tom's Turkey Drive, something happened that none of us expected.
I had a chance to talk to the store employees, and almost everybody that was in there working that day, most of those people didn't have power.
Thank you so very much.
And yet they still came down to be part of that.
We never wanted for volunteers. The stores were all in. It was almost as if the storm and the discomfort that everybody was feeling really magnified their desire to help.
The windstorm tore through town but galvanized the community. And if character can best be measured during a crisis, well, the community then measured up. Compassion drove a turkey drive through a storm. And on the other side, thousands of people took their meals just as the city was being restored. And they made that year one of the most successful on record for Tom's Turkey Drive.
It's just outrage bait, I think. Trump is just rage baiting. He's saying that because he wants to spark controversy and to spark divide. And so those kinds of statements, they just aren't true, really.
Seattleites are outspoken about President Trump's personal attack on the city. And tourists say perception doesn't match reality.
My mom was like, oh, you need to be safe. You should probably leave the city before it's dark, just because you hear about Seattle and that it's unsafe, and I actually don't feel unsafe at all.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome.
From the Oval Office Monday, the president called into question the city's ability to safely serve as one of several North American host cities for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
If we think there's going to be a sign of any trouble, I would ask Johnny to move that to a different city. We have a lot of cities that would love to have it number one, and we'll do it very safely.
The Emerald City. Seattle was announced as one of 11 U.S. host cities in 2022 to much fanfare. A report by Visit Seattle projects nearly $1 billion, $929 million, in economic impact in King County from the 6 matches hosted for the World Cup. But from the White House, Trump appeared more concerned with the politics of the city.
So if we think there's a problem in Seattle where you have a very, very liberal/communist mayor, I would say, it's certainly beyond just liberal. I watched her over the weekend. Wow, that's another beauty we got there.
Meanwhile, FIFA, the organizing body behind the Cup, says they're working closely with host cities and law enforcement and remain confident in their planning and coordination in advance of next summer's matches.
Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we have one more story you might have missed this past week.
The M's front office said re-signing Naylor was their top priority this offseason, and the Mariners got to work quick. If you look around Major League Baseball, this is the first big free agency signing of the offseason. The deal is pending a physical, which reportedly could be completed today. By keeping Naylor, the Mariners are getting a player in his prime, 28 years old. Naylor's a guy you could rely on to get on base, and he's a strong defensive first baseman. Plus, he quickly became a fan favorite in Seattle. ESPN's Jeff Passan reports this is a 5-year contract. The figures aren't official, but the expectation is Naylor would get a deal around $20 million a year. And this is a move most fans wanted to see. A couple examples on our King 5 Facebook post. Renesto says, finally, a really good first baseman since John Olerud. That's been a while. Congrats, Josh. Mary Lou wrote, good news. Josh, we are so happy for you and for us too. There's still some more free agency decisions for the Mariners to make. Eugenio Suarez, who the M's also traded for midseason, is a free agent too. The power-hitting third baseman could attract some big contract offers. And another infielder, Jorge Polanco, he declined his player option for next season, so that means he's testing the free agency market, and especially after his amazing postseason, he is one of the most desirable second basemen out there. Now, this Naylor deal locks in the core of this offense for years to come. Julio, Cal, and now Naylor would all be under contract for at least the next 5 years.
Thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here for more news and weather updates throughout the weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.